Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of Scandal Queens. It is me, yes, EB, the host you love or love to hate, and this week, you already know. If you follow me on social media, if you read the name of the episode, it's the week some of you will have been dreading. Yeah, you will have been dreading this week. That's right, we're getting into it. The country's most popular Midwest princess, Chappell Roan. She broke the internet over the last week with a story of a security guard gone absolutely rogue. And now she's on the tip of everyone's tongue for a completely different reason. Who is Chappell Roan? Who is this person? Is she really this like rags to riches, hardworking lesbian icon for the ages? Or maybe have we all been fooled by the Taylor Swift grift once again? I'm going to be breaking it all down today, and I will be helping you deconstruct the cult of celebrity one segment at a time. But before we jump into the deep end with Chappell Roan, let's talk about the biggest celebrity stories happening this week with a quick temperature check. Right off the top, FKA Twigs is back in the headlines this week, this time facing down an NDA that she alleges she was forced to sign or pressured to sign by her ex, Shia LaBeouf. The singer and artist, whose real name is Talia Barnett, she accused her ex, Shia, of trying to bully her into silence and shake her down financially with an official NDA. According to new statements from her attorney, Twigs claims that LaBeouf made a secret arbitration demand last year in 2025, demanding money from her from what he essentially claimed was like a breach of their agreement, which I don't really understand because I don't know how you have to sign in how you can enforce an NDA on a situation which is overall super illegal. I guess it's over their settlement. I'm not really sure, but Twigs' attorney responded saying that it was just more of the same old, same old. He said that, Shia LaBeouf is an aggressive, controlling bully. He uses the courts to maintain control of and to try to bully Twigs, Talia Barnett. And this is just what the kind of behavior he's always displayed towards the singer. As someone looking at it with a small amount of professional knowledge and experience, it does look like what you see, like coercive control through the courts, this like arbitration control, legal control. It's the abusers will use court systems. And you see this in the family court a lot. I guess family court is also divorce court. Like when a woman chooses to leave a man, you'll see if it's an abusive man, very often you'll see them use the courts against the woman, especially if they have a really big financial upper hand. That's why so many of the Epstein victims didn't come forward for so long. It's all that same kind of coercive control. But essentially it looks like potentially, allegedly, Shia could be using the court system to continue to punish someone who's escaped him, which is what these people do. So I'd be interested to know what you think. In your eyes, is this just another narcissistic trap? Is this more narcissistic behavior? What do you think? Because you might see something that I don't. Let me know over on Instagram at Scandal Queens Podcast, or you can send me a text. Just click the link at the top of the episode description. Next up, Kim Novak slams Sydney Sweeney. This is such a good one. Hollywood icon Kim Novak is in the headlines because she slammed Sydney Sweeney. I absolutely wiped her clean. And that is all coming down to this new film, Scandalous. And Scandalous, it's been on the production table for years. It's been canned, I think, once or twice. But it's back up now, and it's got Sydney Sweeney attached to it playing Kim Novak. And it's supposed to detail the relationship between Kim Novak and Sammy Davis Jr. because they had this romantic tryst together and they had this really deep love connection. But when it was announced that Sydney Sweeney would be playing the part of Kim Novak, Kim kind of went nuclear when she was asked about it. She went straight to the press and she made it clear that she's completely unhappy with Sweeney as the current casting of her in the role and that she never would have chosen Sweeney. She literally said that Sweeney was wrong for the role, and that had she been asked, this is the direct quote, never would have approved of the casting. And then she went further. Okay, Kim wasn't happy saying I don't like the casting. She was gonna really drive home what she thought of Sydney Sweeney in this whole thing, saying that Sydney Sweeney's cleavage sticks out so far above her waist, so far past her waist that it just wouldn't be appropriate to play me. And then she said, as to the film portraying her relationship with Sammy Davis Jr., she said, I'm afraid it's going to portray things too sexual. And you could pretty much see that from the casting of Sydney Sweeney. Because, and this is again a direct quote, there's no way it wouldn't be a sexual relationship because Sydney Sweeney looks sexy all the time. She's totally wrong to play me. So who's to say what's going to happen for this movie, Scandalous? Will Sydney Sweeney stay attached to it? I have no idea. It really looks like whoever is managing Sydney Sweeney has this really weird fixation on putting her in the roles that are the complete opposite of everything that she is. I don't know what they're trying to prove, but I'm not sure if they realize they're not proving it. It's working to dismal effect, but we'll see what happens. It doesn't seem like Kim Novak wants anyone to see this movie. I certainly will not be seeing it, and I'm not interested in anything that Sydney Sweeney is in. And last but not least, it looks like another one of the Duggar boys from TLC's infamous reality TV show family, The Duggars, 19 Kids and Counting, has been arrested. Yes, that's right. This time it's 31-year-old father of four, Joseph Duggar, who was arrested Wednesday, March 18th in Tonatown, Arkansas, for the molestation of a 9-year-old girl in Florida. This is a case that happened, I think, about 6 years ago. The girl's about 14 or 15 year olds now, but it's absolutely horrific. According to the affidavit that was obtained by the Daily Mail, who has got a really in-depth deep dive on this, Joseph was accused of several incidents of sexual abuse against a 9-year-old child, which took place during a family vacation in Florida. I'm not going to detail those. If you really think you need the details of that, you can go and read the Daily Mail's breakdown of the affidavit. Don't need to get it from me. And while all of that is horrific enough, what makes it even more horrifying is that Joseph's wife, Kendra Duggar, has now also been arrested. Not in relation to this specific 9-year-old, but apparently in relation to 4 other counts of second-degree endangering the welfare of a minor and 4 more counts of second-degree false imprisonment, which we're not really sure about yet. This isn't, again, new for the Duggar family, who have already produced one pedophile son, Joshua Duggar, who is currently serving a 12-year sentence for the receipt of and possession of CSAM. Yeah, I'm just, this family, the rabbit hole is so deep. You can go, I'm not going to go into it here. You can go and look into Joshua Duggar's history, things the parents said in defense of him, his Republican father specifically. Their daughter, Jana, was also charged with child endangerment in 2021 because while she was babysitting someone's kids, I guess she just let it wander away, and someone just found the kid wandering outside. But there's a clear and obvious pattern with the Duggar family, and it's one that's just horrifically common in these closed, regressive, fundamentalist Christian communities. You see it all the time in the Mormon church, the fundamentalist and the run-of-the-mill everyday one. The Mormon church has a whole established protocol for handling child abuse because it happens so often that they have a whole protocol that they go through and that church members go through to keep it from being prosecuted. It's absolutely awful. It's the kind, these places are just the kind of environments where predators gravitate towards. It gives them easy access to kids who cannot be cared for by parents because you got 19 kids. 2 parents cannot look after 19 children. You're leaving children to raise children. Easy prey for predators. And there are also systems that easily excuse and defend this behavior. So Joseph Duggar is just the latest legacy in his family's long and torrid history of questionable child rearing and pedophiles. And he is currently in jail awaiting trial. He faces charges of lewd and lascivious behavior involving unlawful sexual activity with a minor. That's in Florida, and now in Arkansas as well since his arrest for that. He's got 4 more additional charges of second-degree endangering the welfare of a minor and 4 counts of false imprisonment, just like his wife, Kendra. If convicted, Duggar could face anywhere from 25 to life, according to the legal statutes of Florida. I'm sure he'll face a lot less than that. Like I said, his brother is serving a 12-year sentence at the moment for child pornography. But good news, his show that he's on, Jesus, Counting On, it's called Counting On, has now been removed from both HBO Max and Discover Plus in the US, but some people in the UK and Canada say they can still see it. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what unfolds. Hopefully he pays the penalty for what he's done. It sounds absolutely horrific. And I hope all the children involved are able to get some justice and some peace. All right. Let's get into it. Chappell Roan is fucked up. That's right. Chappell Roan, everyone's favorite outspoken LGBTQ pop star, has become anathema to the internet. Seemingly overnight. To her fans, it seems like it's overnight. But as we'll get into, it's definitely not. And it all started in Brazil, at a luxury hotel where celebrities and guests were staying for the infamous Lollapalooza festival. The drama all kicked off when Catherine Harding, who is one of Jude Law's exes, got on social media and essentially said a pop star's security detail accosted my daughter, screamed at my daughter, chided my daughter, whatever, made my daughter cry because my daughter just wanted to catch a glimpse, see, appreciate, say hello to her favorite pop star. Now, this caught like wildfire, and it immediately attached itself to Chappell Roan. Now, this 11-year-old girl that the security guard approached and made cry, she is the child of Jude Law. Crazy. I didn't know Jude Law had an 11-year-old child, but here we are. This is Jude Law's daughter, but she was there at the hotel with her stepfather, Georgino, who's a football player, and her mother, Catherine Harding, who's made videos. Georgino, I actually think it was Georgino was the first one to make the post about this, but anyway, it took the internet by storm. Just gets absolutely crazy. And it's been super muddied up, right? Because while the story is essentially security guard approaches a little girl and says something to her that makes her cry and keeps her away from some pop star, the story's changed a million times. The hotel came out very quickly and said it was not our security guard. It was Chappell Roan's security guard. Chappell Roan was saying right away, this is not my security guard. Lollapalooza was like, this is not our security guard. Now the security guard says he's Sabrina Carpenter's security guard. It's all very muddy. We don't really know what happened, but essentially, little kid gets yelled at. 11-year-old saw a pop star that she likes at a hotel where everyone's getting ready to go to this big music festival, and the little girl cried because the security guard told her to fuck off. Whoever's security guard it was, he was obviously there hired. It's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. Whatever. Little girl crying, internet in uproar. So, people who didn't like Chappell already, they saw it as another example of spoiled entitled outbursts, right? Because we've seen this several times. The story with this kid was just days after this event in Paris, where Chappell had gone to a very upscale, very famous celebrity eatery in Paris during Fashion Week, and she had thrown a fit when she came out of this very famous celebrity restaurant during Fashion Week, and when she was getting photographed by paparazzi, and she put her phone in their faces and she was saying all this stuff. All of this happens just days before this thing with the kid happens. So people who didn't like her kicked off a storm on the internet, and they were like, look, it's Chappell Roan days later, days after Paris, throwing this huge fit, being nasty, being entitled, da-da-da-da-da-da. Fans obviously defending it. Everyone's trying to figure out what's going on with this story. Chappell gets on Instagram the next day, and she films this. I'll put it on the Patreon. I'm not going to play the clip here. I'll put it on the Patreon. But she films this video in bed, smirking, where what it boils down to, she's like, I didn't even see the kid. I don't know what happened. That's not my personal security guard. I didn't hire that security guard. Sorry. Well, she doesn't even say sorry. She's just like, not my problem. I didn't do it. The video comes off very smug. If you're someone who's not completely bedazzled by Chappell, it comes off as very smug. It comes off as just like, maybe even a bit like duping delight. It's not good. It doesn't look good. And even some of her fans were upset by the video because they're like, you couldn't even sit up in bed and just say sorry to this little girl, because that's what it ultimately came down to, was this little girl. It was a shitstorm. It kicked off a tremendous shitstorm for Chappell, and she ends up getting canceled. Okay, this has all happened in the last week. She gets canceled from Lollapalooza. The mayor of Rio de Janeiro announces officially, he's like, you can't go. You can't come to the music festival. You're an asshole to your fans. You can't go. So that just kicks the hive even further. And Chappell has to get on again. She gets on Instagram again and makes another video where she's like, it's weird. It's weird for you to approach someone you don't know in public and ask for a picture or ask for an autograph. She's just basically like just calling her fans gross and weird for asking her for pictures, and we're basically like, you should just treat me like an absolutely normal person and never approach me or speak to me ever, which is just delusional. It's delusional because, like, you're a celebrity, you are a public figure. You cannot become a public figure and not interact with the public. That's absolutely crazy. But Chappell did what she does best in this second video, and she was essentially like, these are my boundaries, on and on and on about her boundaries. It was the wrong strategy. Why? Because some of us know weaponized therapy speak when we see it. Okay, some of us have actually done the work and we know what actual boundaries are, and what Chappell was doing, basically telling people like, you can't come around to me. And we've seen there have been multiple videos leaked since of her sending her security after people filming her in public, even if they're yards and yards and yards away, which we'll talk about a little more in depth. But she weaponizes therapy speak, and she's like, these are my boundaries, these are my boundaries, these are my boundaries. But here's the thing. Chappell's idea of boundaries, as we have learned in the last week, is not boundaries. It's controlling other people's behavior. But that's not what boundaries are. Boundaries are limits that we put on ourselves, or lines that we draw around our own needs and behaviors. So, like, for example, I can say, my boundary is having a private relationship, right? I won't be in a relationship with anyone who's posting our relationship on a public social media platform. Okay, that's a boundary where I'm saying I am not going to be in a relationship with a person who does that. But this is not how Chappell talks about boundaries. And that's like one of these big red flags. We're going to get into some way worse stuff that's come up since, but that's been the biggest red flag around this conversation with her and this 11-year-old kid. It's just like, it's my boundaries. But the way she talks about boundaries is completely different from what I just told you. The way she sees a boundary is like, let's say she was in a relationship. In Chappell's mind, a boundary is, I don't want my relationship being filmed and posted publicly, so whoever I'm in a relationship with, you're not going to do that. Okay, so the expectation is on the other person to change a behavior versus Chappell just not even engaging with something that she knows she doesn't want or that is bad for her. Do you see the difference? I don't know if that's a good example, but essentially that's boundaries are to control other people. Your boundary is not sending a security guard to go and talk to someone yards away and to like threaten them and make them take their phone down, right? That's not what boundaries are. A boundary is an invitation for you to act according to your needs, right? So you would tell someone like, my boundary is don't do this. Don't hit me, right? If you do hit me, I will leave, right? That's a boundary. And this isn't new, right? This is a pattern that we've seen over and over and over again with Chappell, this weaponization of words like boundary. She misuses the word when she really means to use a word that represents control. And then she cries and hides a bit behind that word like a victim, right? Because once you say, oh, my boundaries, suddenly you're the victim and the other person is violating. When you say that, when you go, oh, my boundaries, you make the other person a violator. Right? So she hides behind these words like a victim when she's rightfully called out for like rude, entitled behaviors. And it's incredibly manipulative. And it's a tactic you see a lot with covert or soft narcissists who, also play the victim when they are called to accountability. And there's been so many arguments against that. People are like, well, she has a right to not want that. Well, yeah, sure. If Chappell wants to live her life as a private citizen, she absolutely is entitled to do that. It seems like that would be the healthier alternative for her. She's absolutely entitled to live her life however she wants to lead it. But what she cannot do, however, is put herself in the role of a public figure, again, consciously and intentionally, and then claim she doesn't want the public involved in her life in any way. That's not how it works. If you want to be a public figure, you have to learn to deal with the public. Just like if I wanted to be a waitress, I have to learn how to speak nicely to people at tables, right? Right? If she was such a working class person, which again, we're about to get into, you'd think she'd know that. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry, that's the trade-off. If you want to be a public figure, you have to work with the public, which means getting your picture taken, getting filmed when you're in a public space, like an airport. It's just basic customer service skills from basic customer service job, which would have been so helpful for Chappell, I think. But it doesn't look like she has much of that kind of work experience, despite what she's told us. Oh yes, you heard that correctly as well. It looks like the Midwest princess might have sold us a pretty big lie when she sold us the rags to riches storyline fantasy to all of her fans, to anybody who wanted to listen. That's probably been the biggest result out of this. That's why we had to talk all that nonsense about the 11-year-old, which I really don't care that much about. We're now going to get to the real meat of the episode. And that is that Chappell Roan has lied about her background. She straight up lied about her background. And this whole idea that she was just this struggling, couldn't eat, had to really fight her way to the top artist. Because as the Diggers found out, as this scandal with the 11-year-old got bigger and bigger with every video excuse Chappell made, we found out now that the Midwest princess didn't have quite the Midwestern upbringing she claimed to have. That's right, despite selling fans on the idea that she was once a struggling artist who couldn't afford health care, we now know that the pop sensation was actually a much beloved child of an obscenely wealthy family. Kaylee Amstutz, that's her real name, Kaylee Amstutz, of the Amstutz family, is actually, turns out, one of the most successful and well-connected families in Missouri. At one time, her grandfather was considered the richest man in the whole of the state. Yeah, not even kidding. You can go to, if you go on TikTok, if you're on TikTok, if you go to @joblessed, so JOBLESSED 13, you'll find it all there, receipts and all that you can go and dig through. But yeah, it turns out Chappell Roan's family, super, super rich. Her parents own a successful multi-location veterinary practice, and this thing is crazy, right? The big hospital that they bought in 2014, the same year that they more than likely paid for her to go to Grammy camp. Yes, we will get to that. This vet practice that her family bought, the second one, which was like $760,000, has like state-of-the-art water therapy clinics for dogs and all this kind of stuff in it. It's just like state-of-the-art technologically. It's huge. It was almost $1 million. Acupuncture, all that. They purchased it. It was a new clinic. Brand new. It was their second one. And we know now, too, from the documentary that's been dug up, because her family had a documentary produced of her. That the successful couple was raising Chappell not in the trailer park she described to anyone who would listen, but in a $570,000 5-bedroom house on 40 plus acres. Not even kidding. Yes, that's right. Yeah, she grew up in a home worth more than $500,000 with parents who could shell out for $1 million vet practice. The second one. And her dad's a nurse or something like that. So far cry from the trailer park she was quoted as living in 2023 with the interview she did in 5 Cent Sound. That's what it is. 5centsound.com. You can go and look. It's called like House of Chappell or House of Roan. I think it's called House of Chappell. And in it, they're interviewing Chappell Roan. She says, "Oh, I love the aesthetic of growing up in the trailer park." Direct quote. It's still up. You can go look at it. It's on my TikTok as well. 5 Cent Sound. 5, like the number 5, CENT sound.com. You can look it up. And it wasn't just her parents. Not just her parents. Oh, no. No. Because that, $500,000 home, $1 million vet business. Okay. No, it turns out Chappell's grandfather, Dennis K. Chappell, the one she named herself for. Remember when she got up on the stage of the Grammys and she's like, "I named myself for my Papa Chappell and my first name and then my last name is his favorite song." Yeah, that Dennis K. Chappell, one of the richest men in the whole of the state of Missouri. Not even kidding you. He's in videos of her signing her record deal on the porch of the huge house that she lived in. Yeah, that's right. Kids who actually grew up in trailer parks. Chappell Roan grew up with a wraparound porch. How many times did you hear your parents say they wanted a wraparound porch? Well, Chappell Roan grew up in that house. But her grandfather, Dennis K. Chappell, obscenely wealthy, multi-millionaire. This grandfather that Chappell's claimed to be so close to, again, go and look at her Grammy speech. Time and time again, he owned a huge golf course and resort. You can go and look at the website. A massive real estate portfolio. So just on the golf course, they sold like 20 something houses at least. And again, these were huge McMansions valued at $500,000. He owned an insurance company. He owned personal planes. He had his own airstrip. And again, there's photographs of Chappell with her grandfather in front of some of the planes he collected. It is a world away from this working class story that Chappell Roan painted and sold. And, like, I was a struggling artist and I couldn't afford to eat. And again, if you go to that 5 Cent sound and you look at that 2023 interview, 2023, you guys, it's like from November 2023. So it's like 2.5 years old. She said, literally, direct quote, she loved the aesthetics of growing up in a trailer park. Like, she painted herself as someone who had experienced hardship and poverty, because what else does that mean? What does that mean? I grew up in a trailer park when you say that, as someone who's sitting there being asked, like, oh, how did you get here to this pop star that everybody loves? And you go, oh, I grew up in a trailer park. What is that supposed to mean? Meanwhile, her real upbringing, of course, was living in a family that was building, $1 million businesses and multi-million-dollar businesses. She faked everything. She sold her fans a struggle that they actually lived in. She cosplayed her fans' struggles and poverty. She cosplayed it to manipulate them, to steal money from them. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's a brutal revelation. And it's one that has, again, it's come off the back of the Brazil situation. It literally, if she and her PR team had handled the Brazil situation with this kid appropriately, if Chappell had just immediately been like, whoa, that's crazy. I'm so sorry. Hey, darling, do you want to go backstage? Do you want like free tickets to the world tour? If they had handled that, none of this would be coming out about her family now, even though the stories have been out there. If you go digging, you'll find people talking about this for years. People have been talking about Chappell's lying about the trailer park. She's lying about how she's been raised. She's lying about her family being working class, but it never caught fire because she was so beloved. And then she just screwed herself in Brazil. She just couldn't help herself. She completely self-sabotaged herself by being like smug, entitled, refusing to listen to anybody, refusing to have empathy, refusing to take accountability. And here we are. Now we know everything she's ever said about her family history is a lie. And to add insult to injury, as if it's not bad enough that you find out that her family is super, super loaded, it also turns out that all those interviews Chappell gave where she said, oh, I went to summer camp and I made all these artsy friends. Yeah, it turns out that was Grammy camp, sponsored by the Grammys, the Recording Academy. Costs $3,000 a week, doesn't include board, which means you have to pay $3,000 a week, and then you also have to pay for your board while you're there, which is not cheap in New York City. Yeah, it turns out she went to Grammy camp. And it's really interesting because if you watch interviews with her, if you watch interviews from like 2023, 2024, she won't say that. She calls it arts camp. She just keeps saying, oh, I went to arts camp. I met some great people at arts camp. Like they're like singers and stuff, just really awesome people. She doesn't want to say it because she knows that she's lying to people. She's manipulating them. She's scamming them. She's not telling them the truth. She specifically, if she was not trying to lie, she would just say, yeah, it was at Grammys camp. But she didn't want to say that in these interviews because she's lying. She wanted to sell people a lie. Now, here's where it actually gets super important for you and me. I mean, it's all important because all of this is the same, it's all political. Everything's political. But here's what you really need to pay attention to. There's a massively manipulative effort going on to keep Chappell in her position of making money for the Epstein class and record companies. That's just what it is. I thought the Swifties were bad. No. This is a nasty, low, concentrated, very botified effort. Okay. And the activity that's hinging it is the biggest problem of it all. What am I talking about? The diversity and feminism shield. That's what I'm talking about. If you need an example, you can just go to the comments of anyone's video, anyone who's making thoughtful points about Chappell Roan and why she's not popular anymore. You'll be horrified. You will be horrified. You can just go to my Instagram or my TikTok, look at the comments on any of my Chappell Roan videos. You'll be horrified by some of the things people have said to me and to others in defense of this woman. If you say anything about Chappell, anything, and I had no idea they were like this. They're way more vicious than Swifties. If you say anything about Chappell, you're called a misogynist, a bigot, a racist somehow. I've been called that. I've been called a bigot. I've been called what did I get called? A genocider, all kinds of stuff. And her fans weaponize just every aspect of her identity and theirs to wage war in her name. It's been one of the most horrific things to watch because they're addicted to a pop star. They're mentally ill, they're addicted to a pop star, and so they go on like an insane, unhinged attack, and it comes back to Chappell because, sorry, birds of a feather flock together. Time and time again, if you see a nasty fandom, you will find a nasty person at the head of it. These people see themselves in these pop stars that they worship, and I believe that's what we're seeing now. I believe we're seeing Chappell enabling, empowering, and allowing her fans to essentially weaponize identity and therapy speak and feminism. They're using her status as a queer pop icon, and I use that allegedly with quotation marks, to deflect all criticism thrown her way. It's crazy. It's right there in narcissism territory as well. Her fans are working like flying monkeys to attack and label anyone who questions her as bullying a queer woman, which is nuts because in my comments on Instagram, half the people who have been in there questioning Chappell Roan are queer themselves. And you know what's really interesting? Just like Taylor Swift, her fans weaponize all that choice feminism crap as well, where they attack anyone who questions the standard quo of this corporate pop star. They essentially go, well, you just hate women. You're a misogynist. You hate women. And it's this idea of like all women good. And if you want to be good, you can't ever question a woman ever, or you're bad. It's like she can't be bad. She's inherently a woman. And apparently people in the real world can't be good unless they also don't question her. It's like the most backwards fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. It's insane. But it's also ironic because they're like putting Chappell in this position of like, oh, she's a feminist icon. And it's like, why? How would that be when she chooses to work with abusers, genociders, and Epstein co-conspirators? Which, yeah, I'm about to lay down the proof for that. So if you're a Chappell fan listening to this, you better hang on to the last shred of dignity you have, because we're going to really lay out the truth about Chappell Roan, one that you cannot wriggle out of. But it's like, they're like, oh, well, she walked away from an Epstein label days and days and days after other women had already left. Why did she need days to leave a label with a sex abuser on it if she's a feminist? You know what I mean? It's all these like Taylor Swift red flags. And never mind the fact that most of the people I've seen questioning Chappell are women. They're mostly women, but still we're getting stones flung on us. We're getting called bigots, misogynists, like all kinds of stuff. But these people seem to be unable. They would rather weaponize identities who have worked so hard to get like validation and exposure and equality all these years. They would rather weaponize that than just consider the fact that the corporate pop star that they're looking at might be a phony. And that's really where we're going to get into the meat of it, right? If you've got a diehard delusional Chappell fan in your life, this is the segment of the podcast you'll want to like tape them down to the chair and force them to listen to. But that's really where all these revelations about Chappell Roan now, you know, the security guard yelling at this 11-year-old kid as just this, you know, repeating thing, to she lied about her family, and now we have the real hypocrisy of her laid bare. This is where I think you really see who Chappell Roan is and who she isn't. And the kind of scam, fraud, liar, fake hypocrite that she is. And those are all words that I very comfortably label her after the truths we have now gotten after her Brazil incident. But if you're still not buying it, here it is. Let's just look at her biggest piece of hypocrisy ever. Chappell Roan's collaboration with MAC Cosmetics. That's right. Earlier this month, Chappell Roan was named as the official global brand ambassador for MAC Cosmetics. Wow, her face is plastered everywhere. Isn't that great? She's framed it as a full circle moment. That's how she's selling it. She said, look at me, just a little queer kid from a $500,000 home who went with a boyfriend romantically to Italy. Look at me, just little old me. I'm now the face of MAC Cosmetics. But here's the problem. Oh, and I wish she was listening to this. Chappell, if you're listening to this, here's the problem, baby. Send this to your PR team. MAC Cosmetics is a company on the boycott list. Yeah, because MAC Cosmetics actively and currently helps to fund genocide. Can you believe it? That's right. And how does that work? I hear you guys saying, but the drag queens, I don't give a shit what the drag queens say. I've been telling you guys for at least a year now that they're the same thing as Chappell Roan. Essentially, it comes down to this. Mac is owned in majority by Estee Lauder. And guess who owns the majority of Estee Lauder? Ronald Lauder. Ronald Lauder, that's right. One of Donald Trump's best friends. One of Donald Trump's biggest donors, one of his most vocal supporters, a die-hard, registered, open Republican. And he has said, you can go and look it up, he has said openly that he uses his money from Estee Lauder to fund Donald Trump. But that's not all. That's not all. He declares himself, this is him declaring it, this is not me putting a label, doing a TikTok, this is him. He is a very, very, very proud Zionist. That is his belief system. He's openly admitted that. And he, again, openly donates money to Benjamin Netanyahu, who he, again, is also personal friends with and donates to directly. This is open knowledge. It's on every decent boycott list in the world. It is on, like, every person who is actively engaged with what's going on in Palestine knows that MAC Cosmetics is on the list, and you don't buy MAC Cosmetics. So obviously Chappell is not hanging out with people who are really invested or knowledgeable in what's going on in Palestine, because she just signed a big contract to do work with a company who is funding the genocide in Palestine. Yeah. She, Chappell Roan, is now making money for a company that funds genocide. She is making them money that they are going to spend actively. She's actively helping them raise money to genocide children in Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Congo, you name it. You name it. And she's posting about it. She's making videos about it. She's super proud to represent MAC Cosmetics. And her fans are super proud to give their money to a company who's going to kill children. Who is killing children. Who has been killing children for years. Years and years and years and years and years. And Chappell's making them money actively. She's proud of it. Not a secret. Not a secret. MAC has been on the list since 2023. You know? And I've had Chappell people in my comments saying, she supports Palestine. How could you say anything against her? Does she? How can she? When she's working proudly and happy for a company that's killing them. She declined a White House invitation because of a genocide, but then she accepts a business contract. Is it just because the White House didn't want to pay her to support them? She just wanted to get closer to the actual perpetrators, maybe? Is that it? Is that ask the Chappell fan in your life. Ask them to explain how Chappell, if she is so against genocide, could work with an Estee Lauder, Ronald Lauder company. And that's kind of the last thing that I think is kind of like one of the last big pieces that we have to pay attention to. And it's the behavior of the fans, because the behavior of fans has been crazy. I've had people that I genuinely enjoy. We've been mutual friends online for years and years. I enjoy their content. I enjoy their work. I enjoy their stories, their personalities, who've turned on me over this and said like some really mean shit. And it's despite all of it. It's despite all this open fraud, scam, lying, hypocrisy. Her fans are still trying to defend her, and so is her team. Specifically, we saw in the last couple of days, Chappell Roan's PR team teamed up with that Good AI, the same AI crisis PR company that Taylor Swift hired when she was in the boiling pot. They did a survey. They put it out to BuzzFeed and a bunch of other places. I guess Rolling Stone didn't want to take it. Basically saying that 23% of the posts online about Chappell Roan are a coordinated bot attack to try to take her down. It's inorganic, which her fans have jumped on as a defense. They're like, look, this Gudea says it's 23% of tweets are bot attacks. It's like 77% of the criticizing online is organic. That it's just not. They're having a hard time defending it, but they're doing it anyway. So here are a couple of quick just annihilations of those defenses. You can go, I've talked about some of these on TikTok. I'll talk about some of them maybe a little bit later this week on Substack and Patreon. But if you've got a Chappell stan in your life, here's a couple of quick annihilations you can use on these defenses. Number one, her fans are claiming that Chappell Roan is being targeted because she left Wasserman Agency. Wasserman Agency, of course, was being run by Casey Wasserman, who we found out was all over the Epstein Files. And about, 4 days after people started leaving the agency, Chappell Roan announced she was leaving. And so now her fans are claiming, oh, look, it's because she's not working with Epstein people. But here's the thing, she is working with Epstein people. Ronald Lauder from Estee Lauder is in the email no less than 450 times. He was close personal friends. There was money exchange going on. So he's also an Epstein co-conspirator. So she's not being targeted because she left a Jeffrey Epstein tied agency, right? Because she's working with someone else who's in the Epstein Files. So that doesn't hold water. Okay. It just doesn't hold water. Lauder is in there and he owns MAC Cosmetics and that's who she's working for. So it doesn't hold water. But the second big defense I see, and it goes back to that good idea one, is people are saying this is a bot campaign and this has come out of nowhere. It has not come out of nowhere. Okay. This is a long and established routine pattern with Chappell Roan. We had the VMA photographer incident, which happened a year or two ago, in which she told that freaking real journalist to shut the fuck up. She screamed at him when she got bad press. I think it was last year, maybe, or the year before. She got some bad press, so she canceled shows and said it was mental health, which again is just take accountability, girl. You got some bad press, write it out. Don't go and hide and say, oh, it's my mental health, because you don't want to take accountability for your behavior. There's a really crazy video where she is walking through a public airport and someone is filming her yards away. I'm talking 15, 20 yards away. And she sees it and she motions to her security detail and sends the security guard to go walking across the airport to the other side of the walkway and down to go and accost this person. These are not new conversations. You can go on Reddit. A year ago, someone was on there saying why does her Wikipedia say she lived in a trailer park? She didn't. She's rich. Her parents are rich. Her grandfather was rich. The family's crazy, crazy rich. These are old conversations. They're breaking the surface now. If you've got these Chappell fans who are like, well, this is just happening now and that's the sign it's a bot. They're not. It's taking heat now because she's put herself again in the media for bad behavior. It's like her 7th strike at this point. You're supposed to get 3 strikes, you're out. Well, she's on strike 7 at this point. And eventually things like this are going to catch steam when you're a celebrity in the media for a scandal. I won't say that all is lost, though. I will not say that all is lost, because I think we are actually seeing a mass exodus, despite the fans online who are still remaining very aggressive, some of which I know are bots, but like I said, I know some real people who have gotten really shifty with me over this Chappell Roan stuff. But we are seeing people leave the fandom live in real time. And it's because the Taylor Swift tactics aren't going to fly anymore. Not going to fly anymore. That pre-internet scam where a rich girl could sell a lie and sit on it for a decade and make $1 billion off of it, it ain't going to fly anymore. It's just not. Fans can see the pattern clearer. They can see it faster. They can see the entitled person on the other side, and they got Google to back it up. There's a lot of digging you can still do with Google. When you build a brand on being, quote unquote, one of us, and then it's revealed that you're not one of you, well, not one of us, that's a problem. It's a problem. You can't act like the 1%, come from a wealthy family, and then cosplay the working class. It doesn't work that way. That's not how the check clears. People have access to information, and we're at breaking points. People are struggling. They're not going to just stop buying your CDs. They're going to fucking send you to the guillotine, right? You you cannot wear people's struggles as a costume to swindle them, right? If you're going to play that game, yeah, you're going to lose fans. You're going to get canceled, as you should be. You should be canceled for that. And that's why we're seeing Chappell Roan fans selling their 2026 tour tickets, calling her a hypocrite, because she is. She's a liar and she's a hypocrite. And that's why you have actual working class people like me who actually lived in a trailer park painting her as what she is, which is a scammer. She should have never said that. That never should have ever come out of her mouth. And it now makes everything else she's ever said in doubt. Because if she lied about the whole of her backstory, what else will she lie about? Anything. It's not a rhetorical question. Anything. Chappell wasn't setting boundaries when she sent her security guard onto that fan. She wasn't trying to protect herself or anything like that. She was building a fortress. As a feudal lord. She wants to sit on top of her fortress and look at all the poor people down there making the money for her. But she doesn't want to have to actually touch any of the pores. And she doesn't want any of the pores touching her pretty pink kingdom. Well, I hope she enjoys that separation that she's built for herself. She could have been a part of something great. She could have built community. She could have built a global community. But Chappell, as it turns out, is just the same old plastic-produced sham of a pop star as Taylor Swift. Just like all the rest of them. And that is going to bring us to the end of today's autopsy. You and I have peeled back the layers of the Midwest Princess. I've said basically everything I have to say about it. And we've exposed the rot and the corruption beneath the lies that she sold us. We found a narrative that looks a lot less like grassroots movement and a lot more like Chappell was just another one of those PR campaigns. Like everything about her was just more of that. Like we were just talking about Jed Wallace masterminding a whole campaign. She just feels like more of that. She feels like a hologram, an absolute character from top to bottom. Nothing she ever said was real. From the outbursts in public airports and hotel lobbies to the country club family roots that Chappell Roan sprang from, the receipts are clear, right? It's out there, whether you like it or not. The persona we were sold of Chappell Roan is not who's holding the mic. That person doesn't exist. Just look at the hypocrisy of her MAC Cosmetics campaign. Absolute hypocrisy, man. Chappell's proved that there's no such thing as a moral stance to her, that even genocide is not the line for her. Her morals, they're nothing but a placeholder until she finds the next virtue signal to sell her fans. And what's sad is that she'll continue to do it. She'll continue to do it as long as the check's clear, and her fans will continue to do it as long as she keeps making music, like whatever. I don't even know how you would classify that music, but it is what it is. Before you log off today, there's just a few things that I want to leave you to think about. To answer these now, you can let me know what you think on Instagram. You can send me a text message by clicking the link at the top of this episode description. But there's a few questions I want you to think about this week. Number one, is the relatable indie artist a thing? Has it ever existed? Has it ever been real? Or is Chappell Roan just what there's always been? Number two, if a celebrity's activism stops at a paycheck, is it really activism? That one I'd be especially interested to get an answer to. And last but not least, what point does a boundary stop being about safety and start being a tool used to maintain social hierarchy? That is also one that I would really love the class conscious to help me answer. So let me know on social media or send me a little text. You can click that link at the top of the episode description. For everyone else, if you would like to join the inner circle and stay informed, there's a few ways you can do that. I do a lot of deconstruction outside of this podcast, and I do it in a lot of different ways. So there's a little bit of something for everybody. If you want unfiltered audio, ad-free episodes, bonus breakdowns, join me over on Patreon, where my friend Connie and I are slowly but surely building like a little podcast network. I've got this podcast, Scandal Queens, which I'm building, and I also have Nuska, which I do with Connie, which is our more serious, grounded, factual, down-to-earth kind of thing. So if you'd like to support that, or if you want to see this podcast keep going, if you want me to see it grow, if you want me to bring on new guests, head over to patreon.com/Nuska and help support me and help support Scandal Queens. If you're more of a reader, if you like more of the long form stuff, you can join me over on Substack, because I am, after all, a writer by trade. That's how I make my money. That's where I put my guides, opinions, essays, like all things writing. So you can go to therealebjohnson.substack.com and get all my stories there. I've got stories about my life, my upbringing, my mother, my siblings, narcissism. I have lots of narcissism guides on there. I talk about celebrities, marketing, like all kinds of stuff. Basically everything that you can imagine. And if you subscribe to my Substack for just $5 a month, you get access to everything. It's a huge library. I have more than 2,700 articles, guides, essays. You'll never run out of stuff to read. So head to therealebjohnson.substack.com if that is more of your thing. And for everything else, for bite-sized snippets, you can join me on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. It's at The Real E.B. Johnson everywhere. Pretty easy. Oh, and quick housekeeping before we go. There will be no new episode next week. I will be taking a week off to enjoy some time and celebrations with some of my friends for some things I have going on in my life. So please send me all your good vibes. And if you need a fix, you can head over to Patreon, listen to ad-free episodes, or you can go to Apple and Spotify and rewind, listen to some old stuff. But I'll be back the week after next week and right back into all the celebrity scandal that you can stand. So make sure you're following me for updates and to know when the next new episode's out. Again, 2 weeks from today, is that it? It's week after next week. Okay, so make sure you're following me and don't miss a single update. If you love this deep dive, please take a second to leave a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. It keeps me independent and immune to the PR machine. So again, help me build this thing and let's keep it going. And for everyone else, until next time, keep your secrets close and the receipts closer. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.